counties. They offer several different residential plans, all with unlimited data. And details are available by phone at 509-392-6500 or online at newbeam.com. That's NEUBEAM.com.
This is KCHW 102.7.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Good afternoon. You're listening to KCHW 102.7. This is Chuck Ritchie here with a special guest in the studio. We have Tim Nielson from Trails End Gallery. We're going to take a little time here and do a special recap of the Winterfest for the Arts. Talk about a little bit about the melding with the new Winterfest festivals that we have going on, and talk about some of the winners and some of the stuff we have going on here in Chewelah. How you doing, Tim?
Great.
Great. Thanks for joining me. I know we do these sometimes before the art walks. We'll meet up at 4 on Wednesdays, and when you have a new artist in the studio, and we give a little talk with the artist, and we're kind of doing that today on a different day. On a Monday, we had Nicole and Evan with the Winterfest, with Chewelah Festivals on this morning, talking a little bit about how Winterfest went, answering some questions from the community, and just kind of giving an overview of what's to come and how this all came about.
I'm sure it was good. I just happened to be up at the mountain this morning, so
it was.
And I'm here now.
We would have loved to have you on, but it didn't. But I'm glad to have you now, and now we get the whole hour. Just
that's
to talk
a lot
about
of ground to cover, really.
It was.
It was, and they did a fantastic job of. Someone always has to shepherd all the information and everything, and it worked out good. Just from my perspective, I thought it was a great development over last year's. And these things take time. I mean, we started the Winterfest for the Arts 5 years ago. Really with the initial intent of, if we don't do this, we're going to exhaust all the local artists, and we need to grow the event. We need to create a reason why people would, another reason, besides there's a lot of good reasons to come to Chewelah, but another reason why they would come to Chewelah. Right. So the Winterfest has been very successful from that standpoint. I know that last year, the whole Winterfest, the whole 2 months, 2 weeks of the show, we sold, I think, 3 or 4 pieces total. Mm-hmm. And this year we sold 5 pieces before the show opened.
Wow.
We sold 3 the night of the open and 3 during the Winterfest all-town celebration.
Wow.
Yeah. So someone on the hill today was asking me, so did you get many people in there? And I said, yeah, we were packed. And it was pretty fun. If you walked around, close in the core area here, every restaurant was full. People were everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It was just a lot of fun.
It is. And, these we talked about earlier, it's good for the business. It's good for our local economy, especially as we keep going with these events and keep moving forward. Keep bringing people into town. People are going to start knowing Chewelah is the place to come for these events and all the fun stuff we have going on.
Well, I think that's ultimately what it's about. Is we're showing the rest of the inland Northwest what Chewelah has to offer. Whether it's skiing, golf, culture, theater, art. Restaurants, good restaurants,
exactly.
A brewery,
exactly.
It's really changed. I remember when I first met my now wife 24 years ago, who grew up in Chewelah. She was a Hafer, Nandis Taylor, and anyway, there was it was a lot different place then than it is now,
Right.
especially Main Street. And so I like to, I mean, just obvious stuff that's happened, just development and good stuff, really for the whole community.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I love when we do these events, and I got to say, we were both in those meetings. I'm pretty proud of what we put on. I know you're proud of what you're doing over at the art gallery, and your events are really, I mean, my hat's off to you for your new gallery. It's
Thank you.
Can you call it new anymore? Is it
No,
is it just the gallery now?
It's just the gallery now. But it was our 8th anniversary this year. We opened the same month at the old location on 395 that the brewery did, that Quartzsite opened.
Right.
So, and sometimes I go, really? Wow, we've been around. This is our 8th anniversary. And so, but I look at it from the beginnings to the beginnings taught me that there really was a place for a gallery in this town, and moving to Main Street and acquiring the building and then really finishing the build out for what would work for us it's golden. I mean,
Yeah.
that's my office every day that I walk in there.
So what got you into? I mean, I know you were doing jewelry first, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So what made you make the leap to just say, you know what, I'm going to open an art gallery in Shawila, Washington?
Well,
What's the story there?
Well, the space I took over, it was a gallery before. It was the Blue Moose Gallery.
Okay.
And it opened, and I think it was open for about a year before it folded.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't work for the owners of the gallery. And so when I was looking for a place to house my jewelry business, manufacturing, that space was available. And it was, when I first looked at it, I thought, wow, this is just way more space than I need. And so I converted the closet into my, sink and casting area.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put up a wall and separated the jewelry studio part from the gallery. And even though it was small, I think it was probably a novelty at first, but we would get a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
And we outgrew that space. And just the mere fact of having extra space, what are you going to do with it? Well, let's start a gallery. I mean, my wife and I, honest, we would go to First Thursday down in Portland. It's a big thing.
Right.
It's a very big thing. So big that they had to add Last Thursday
Yeah.
to it because they couldn't, kind of all the galleries that started it were the First Thursday galleries. And then the Last Thursday was another group of galleries that maybe weren't in that core area. And so, we both have art degrees. She's had a gallery management class. It wasn't offered when I was getting my BFA in art.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought it was kind of logical.
Yeah.
If I even want to show my own work in cases, then I need a gallery. And then I just set about to finding all the prominent artists in the area and networking with artists I knew from Portland that had Spokane connections. And after 2 years, we expanded. We doubled the size of the gallery because we outgrew it.
Right.
And then after, the business actually grew 40% during the COVID years, which seems
That's
weird.
incredible. Yeah.
But it did. And coming out of that, I just feel like we had enough data that we can do this. We can make it work. And we were outgrowing the space again and had nowhere to go within that building.
Right.
So it was just really kind of a logical step. And when I first looked on the block, there were 3 vacant buildings, and and 2 that were vacant, looking for a renter, or 3 buildings that were basically for sale and 2 that were looking for renters.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
kind of a, but there's, the building that we're in was really the only building that I wanted, that I could see making work.
Well, and it had recently been renovated, right? One of the buildings downtown.
Yeah.
From,
so all I had to do was I researched and gallery lighting, and I hung all the gallery lighting and designed my sign, and had help, with getting the design finished so it could be cut and whatnot.
Right.
And having the electrical work done commercially for my studio space, and my wall hanging system, and as time goes on, like I've added the back gallery. I made that a showable space.
Yeah.
Back in that room.
And you've got couches back there, and it's all set up a little
some
cozier than the
club
front.
chairs, and it's kind of fun. I mean, we've been to galleries where the gallery owner goes, "Well, I've got some more of his work in the back. What do you want to see it?"
Right.
And you kind of felt like you were going to the inner sanctum or something.
It
was kind of
VIP
fun.
area.
Yeah, it was just fun, and we've bought art that way, and people have bought art at our gallery that way, not because of that specifically, but there was, instead of having the art on shelving units or in stacks, it's mostly up on the wall. So it's just better to be able to see what you have. And anyway, I mean, at this point, we're booked. I had a cancellation for this May, June that we're working on it. We haven't 100% nailed that down yet, but aside from that, we're booked through April of 2026.
Right.
And I've just kind of stopped looking. I'll wait. It'll be another year probably before I start worrying about, the rest of 2026. But
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
So a lot of these artists that you book so far in advance, are they local artists from the area that have moved away, or just kind of regional artists? Do you have a specific model?
The fun thing and the model really for finding some of these artists was the Winterfest.
Mm-hmm.
It introduced me to new art. So a number of artists, Leslie Lambert was a Winterfest winner.
Right.
One of my judges, and she's a teacher, college professor, teaches art down in southern Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And others, the first Winterfest that we had, the first Best in Show winner, Amalia Fish, I've had for a solo show, and it was a really good solo show. It was at the old location. Well, usually you want to wait, at least 2 years to rebook someone.
Right.
Let enough time pass, and so it'll be 4 years, I think, when her next show is. But my point is, the Winterfest is doing its part in that it's exposing me to new artists,
mm-hmm.
and then when I can work it in, then I create shows from that. Last year, a couple of our new artists to Winterfest, Jamie Thompson and Kim Long.
Yep.
I really liked their work, and they're in a show together this summer, July, August.
Nice.
So it's really nice, and in general you want to give an artist or artists at least a year to pull their show together.
Right.
They kind of go through their own process, decide what they want to make, and then curate and build the show. Right. But it's their show.
One of the things that I've loved seeing, I've seen it with your shows. I've seen it through the Art Walk, through some of the stuff the Creative District's done, because we do the pop-up galleries, and they're more for younger, newer up-and-coming artists. We have a lot of the local artists that we feature. And I love seeing the new ones that come in. Like, it's their first time ever showing their work, and seeing some of the responses that they get. Seeing some of these people that they have this work that nobody knows they're doing it, and they sometimes it takes a little bit of, you don't want to push them too hard because they're artists, and artists sometimes like to get scared and run away back to their cave. But sometimes you can get one to come out and really come out of their shell, come out of their comfort zone and show, and then next thing you know, a year later they're doing big stuff.
I think it takes a degree of courage, because when you're making something most art is pretty personal. The good art to me
Absolutely.
is the stuff that's more personal, and someone's really kind of boldly going forward and making this piece. And then, they might go through their feelings of self-doubt, or is it good enough, or
Right.
will it get accepted into the show? But you kind of have to start somewhere, and then the ones that are more mature in the process, they know now,
Right.
and they've been through a number of shows, and they have a level of comfort with the show side of it, and they just keep doing their work.
Right.
And the whole process evolves. Hopefully you look at it, and whereas, say, like the Spotlight Gallery might be a first show for someone, well, maybe and they really were well received and they enjoyed it, or it could have been the one up at the golf course. The
light in the darkness.
The light in the darkness.
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry, it was
No worries.
on the tip of my tongue. But then they might think, wow, well, maybe I'll try out for the Winterfest next year.
Right.
Because that's kind of the next step up in the process. And, and I've got artists in there that have submitted for 5 years. And when they first started submitting, they were, newer to it. They might have had a couple years under their belt, but they really wanted to be painters.
Right.
And one of them this year, she sold all 3 pieces that got in.
That's
She got the
fantastic.
People's Choice Award, Wendy Coleman,
Mm-hmm.
and her friend, Amber Semenza. They're from Colville, and they both work in the encaustic style.
Yes.
And Amber got second place.
Which,
so I
Which for the
thought
people
that was
listening,
really cool.
in caustic style, that's more of I mean, it is a painting, but it's more of a 3D style using wax. Is that correct?
Well, you can actually buy wax of different colors, and that is your medium and your method of painting is with a wax. I wish I knew more, like from the standpoint of maybe having tried it, firsthand experience,
Right.
but I don't. I like the look because it has a depth. It's different. It's different than an
you want to
oil.
reach out and touch it. Yeah,
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it does have a tactile. It's kind of magnetic. You do kind of want
Right.
to don't touch that painting, kind of thing. But my point is, on the Winterfest, I just think it's what we have in that show are aspiring artists, and we've got artists that are very professional and show regularly and are represented by other galleries, and they've been doing it a long time. And I think there's room for both. I do want to say that I just posted this afternoon on Trails in Gallery the juror's statement by Anjanette Escobar and Leslie Lambert,
Okay.
which kind of outlines how they were looking at this, making their decision. What were they looking for? And I think it would be helpful for people to read that. And then I did a recap of who won. But the previous week, about every other day or whatever it took, maybe it was longer, 10 days, I would load 8 to 10 images. I went through the whole show piece by piece and listed the title,
Right.
obviously the medium, the dimensions, the artist, the price, what if it was an award winner, best in show, first, second, third, honorable mention. And I went through the whole thing, so everybody, the whole show, if you haven't been able to get to the gallery, it is online, Trails in Gallery on Facebook.
Okay.
And it's nice. So you can go through that, and then
So that's on Trails End Gallery Facebook page. Is it also on your website or?
we don't have a website
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. So
it's on the list.
but yeah, you have. I know we talked about this before. Where I mean, you got a long list of winners. We can't really. I mean, we could list them all here, but you're just going to get listed names. If you really go to the Facebook page, you really get sort of this immersive experience. You can see the art.
Well, yeah, the post I did today
read
too
about it, yeah.
was the recap.
Right.
But then you could go back through, and it's listed in on the whole show that I've put. Everyone that's in this show,
Right.
if they won an award, it says after that particular piece of art. But
Very cool, including the ones that have sold that are no longer hanging in the gallery.
no, they're there.
Oh, are they? Okay.
When a show like this, you sell it with the knowledge of they really can't pick it up till April.
Okay.
So, but it's nice. We've sold, I guess 11 pieces so far, and that was, I wasn't expecting that. I'll
That's
tell you
incredible.
that. I mean, I do think it's the best Winterfest show so far, without a
Right.
doubt. The work has really bubbling up in quality, and
Right.
you'll still get a range, of aspiring to very professional. But it's funny. I've had artists go, well, gosh, I just makes me wonder every year if I'm going to get in.
Right.
Right. And then I'll have artists who go, I already know what I want to do for next year, so I'm already, I have ideas for next year's submission already.
Well, and I want to say too. So watching some of these artists, I remember we were over at the brewery and Chris Davis was announced that she was one of the winners, and her reaction.
Yeah, she
was
got best
just-
in show.
Yeah, her reaction was just phenomenal. I mean, I've known her for a while now, and I've seen sort of some of her progression of her work, and she's amazing. Like you said, she doesn't just do wire wrap.
Well,
she does
I mean,
sculptures.
you would think it's sculpture.
Yeah.
She is a sculptor, and
Yeah.
her method, her media is copper and stone.
Mm-hmm.
She cuts her own stones and polishes, and then she builds her own, piece of
Yeah.
sculpture and jewelry. One of the pieces that got into the show was this amazing pendant. I mean, for me, I would have had a hard time, and maybe since I'm a jeweler, I would look at the wearability of that as kind of an edge.
Right.
That
right.
it really has utility beyond. Well, some art, it's on the wall.
Right.
It's for the wall. But it's just really interesting. I've never seen work like this before. And
No.
and that's what I like. You can see something, and I had an art teacher that said that once. I mean, way back when I was in art school, that when he goes, I don't really see the difference between fine art and craft when craft is done so well
Right.
that it transcends that
Right.
and has become fine art. And so I would say that about her work, that the pieces are just really unique and expressive and definitely worth looking at.
Oh yeah. I mean, you hear
And
the term
she's
wire
sold two
wrap.
pieces already
Yeah.
as well. And so, is that the market? Is that like a confirmation in a way that I don't know, but it's
I do think her
people
work
like what they like.
Yeah, it transcends normal what you think of as the traditional wire wrap. Though she takes it to just this completely otherworldly level.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's a metal sculpture,
Yeah.
really, for lack
Yeah.
of a better word, and metal sculpture and jewelry. So talented.
So now tell us a little about the timeline of Winterfest. So Winterfest, how long is Winterfest? We were talking about this on the morning show this morning, and none of us could remember the actual timeline of Winterfest.
Timeline. Well, early on at Trails End Gallery, if you're asking about that, maybe the chronology of how it came about.
I want to get that too, and
Or-
also it's a multiple week long show. It's not
Well, no, it's all my shows,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of this one, are 2 months.
Right.
This one goes 2 months and like 13 days or
Okay,
whatever.
okay.
and every show always has a beginning point, and that beginning point usually includes the artist giving a talk, and then a soft open that night, the talk at the brewery.
Right.
And then the next night, the formal open, which is our first Thursday. But that artist will get another first Thursday, just like the Winterfest. It's on the first Thursday schedule. So it'll be first Thursday, it was, and February 1st.
Yeah.
It'll be March 7th, I think it is, and then April something. And then it comes down after that.
Okay.
But I thought about, having a show a month. That's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I found that a 3-month show, because I had done the Winterfest before, 3 months long, and it really just drags on that last month.
Right.
But for 2 months, there's quite a bit of interest, and then I view that last first Thursday as kind of like the closing show. So I'll bill it that way, that it's the closing show. But what I've also done is I offered to artists that are in the Winterfest show, if they were interested in giving a talk at the brewery, on that first Wednesday, which is always the Wednesday before the first Thursday,
Right.
then it would be a good time to step up to the plate and talk about your work. So March 6th, we have Marcy Bravo. She's a ceramist, and we've got Jamie Rose Lord, who is a painter. And Jamie also did the mural that's above the creamery.
Yeah. Yeah, with Buttercup, I believe.
The cow.
Yeah, is the cow-
I don't know.
think-
I just know that Nanda's really made sure she knew about that opportunity, and she really did a fantastic job on that mural, I have to say. And
I
then
love that. That cow has so much personality. I'm pretty sure it was Buttercup, because we had Christine Dow from Country Chevrolet on the other morning, and they did a contest for to see who could guess the name of the cow in the painting.
Oh, that's good.
And I believe it was Buttercup. So,
But, like Nana said, you should, she knew Jamie because my wife's friends with Marcy Bravo, and they would have their birthday get-togethers and whatnot.
yeah.
And so
and
she
pretty much
said-
everybody. Nana's is friends with everybody.
Yeah. She said, well, she'll be up at, I think, that summer, the Day on the Green thing, or that summer event.
Yeah.
They did this year. Well, Jamie was showing up there. So I went up and took a look at everyone's work, and I liked her work.
Yeah.
And so it's fun. It's interesting. Some works just don't, you can take the best digital photograph, but it's not as good as seeing it in person. Like, I liked her pieces, the photographs, but I like them a lot more on the wall, and seeing them and being able to see the variation in surface. She's painting with oils, and one of her pieces sold too, so that was nice for her. But but the neat thing is, okay, so she's going to give a talk, so she's from a big family, and they'll all be down at the brewery listening to her talk about her art, which I think is fantastic, and it really is. These art talks are important for an artist to learn how to present what it is they do coherently.
Right.
Because, and putting a slideshow for something like that, a PowerPoint, it's not always just about the art. What drives the artist? It could be really cool pictures of landscapes that make them think how they think, and
Reminds them of childhood memories.
It's about building a narrative, and for the most part, I think any piece of art is a narrative.
Exactly.
When I look at it, if I don't know what it is, it conjures one right there. But I find that I am even more drawn to a piece when I've heard the artist talk about it. Then I want to go back, or the first time I see that piece and go, okay,
Yeah.
that's one they talked about. That makes, you just feel like you have a better understanding of it. And I do think, and it could be because it's maybe the way I buy art or we buy art is, we get to know the artists and we buy the narrative, and there's this exchange.
Exactly.
Well,
it's almost like a little piece of their. Sounds weird to say it, but almost like a little piece.
Yeah,
of
I
their
didn't want to
soul
get
you're
all
buying.
new agey on you, you know.
But it is. It's a
Yeah.
little piece of them that you're taking home with you.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
And some artists, I think, when they're first starting out, they have a hard time selling their work, or they think they just need to. Well, I'll sell it if I can get this for it, but
Right.
the market, we're in a market economy,
Right.
And demand and things like that, and just interest. It takes a while, I think, for an artist to even find what their worth is.
Right.
And you kind of got to start somewhere, and if it all blows out, then the next time maybe you raise your prices a little bit. I think it challenges them,
Agreed. And I do think, like you said, hearing those art talks, hear them talk about their art beforehand. Sometimes I like seeing it, and then you hear them talk about it, and then you go back and you look at it again, and it looks like
I
a
agree.
completely different piece when you look at it
Yeah.
again. You see things you didn't see before. And I've really been enjoying. I know Scott did it here before me, and I've been sort of carrying on the tradition of doing these pre-interviews before the art walks. And there've been a couple of times a couple of the artists have come in, and it sort of helps get the jitters off, before they do their presentations, and they come in and they sort of talk about the stuff, and like we have these videos that they can take and they share, and you said it helps them develop their narrative.
Yeah,
And
I think that's fun too, in the way that you do it, where it's posted to YouTube.
Yeah.
And people can see it. I remember
And their friends in South Africa can watch it.
Well, I had an artist and said, "Yeah, my friend in Puerto Rico called me up and said, 'Hey, man, I got to see your art talk.'"
That's fantastic.
And then pictures of the show and stuff. Or no, it was the interview.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw your interview, and
Yeah.
and that was fun. And then another artist, his friends from Santa Barbara, called up and said, "Oh, that was a great interview." And so I think that's really neat in terms of technology, what it's made. How
Right.
things are
Right.
so available. And
It is, and even connecting personally. There've been a couple people that I've interviewed that we're good friends now, just because of the art shows, and because of doing this and being involved in the art community here.
Well, I think it's helpful for them. I mean, it's, obviously a radio station or whatever. You want content, interesting
Right,
content.
right.
Cultural content is great. News, music. But for the artist, again, they need to be able to operate on these different platforms.
Exactly.
Talking like this, which is really valuable to
agree.
talk about, what you're working on,
Of course, I'm going to agree.
Yeah, but it really is.
It is.
And then giving a talk before people, like at the art talk at the brewery. And that's really fun, because that's why we do a soft open, because if someone comes from out of town and maybe they can't make it the next night, but you always get a handful of people, sometimes it's been up to 40 people that come over after that, because they kind of want that preview.
Right.
They just were told about this, so they
Right.
want to come over and see it in person, and it's fun.
Yeah.
They come in and they'll gravitate right toward a piece, or and I just feel like it gives them a better experience.
Well, and I like knowing, I really love asking, what kind of tools did you use? What's your process here? I love knowing the sort of the nuts and bolts of it, and hearing not only how they came up with the inspiration, but like how physically did you do this? And
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
a lot of times it's a trade secret and they don't want to talk about it, but any little glimpse I can get is it's fascinating to me. It's just, I'm an appreciator, but I've never been skilled enough to do much of it myself, but
Well,
I just love learning about it.
Somewhere in that audience is a person who sees that and says, "Well, I'd like to try that," and it happens all the time,
Right.
and so to hear a person talk about their process, and even if they show things sequentially, like when I was doing the Pechacucha, I call them napkin sketches because sometimes that's what I get. Here's the sketch. Here's the wax model I'm sculpting in process, and then here's the casting. Here's the finished piece. It tells you something. They say a picture tells 1,000 stories or whatever.
Right.
But it really, in this linear progression, beginning to end, it's really nice to be able to show that.
Yeah.
Here's that. I watched a video once. I was in a drawing class in my maybe 20 years ago, and we watched a video of Picasso doing a painting.
Wow.
And he was doing it for the Spanish Tourism Board.
Mm-hmm.
So he's painting along and he's going, I'm losing it. He was talking in Spanish, but you could, they had subtitles.
Right.
And then
with his little mustache.
By the time he was done, he had no mustache.
Oh, he didn't.
At that point.
Oh, goodness gracious!
He was
in
his elder years.
I'm thinking of Dolly.
Yeah, little pencil thin mustache.
Yeah.
But the point was, by the end of it, we saw him actually do. There was 3 separate paintings, but he didn't like it as he went along. So he would just kind of move things around, a little gouache, change this, and he just wasn't afraid to go and undo what he had done,
right?
Because he knew it wasn't right, and that was what my drawing teacher was trying to tell us. Was like, look, don't be bold, don't. You make a perfect line, and now that becomes so precious. You're working around it in your drawing,
right?
Attack this thing. And I took drawing and painting from him, and just kind of
that teaches
fun.
You not only that it's okay to make a mistake, but it's okay to just do over it. Like
it's okay to fail. It's you're going to do. Of course, I'm a jeweler, but in art school, I remember I took a watercolor class, which I really enjoyed, and my teacher, who was a really good painter, he said, if I get about 1 out of 30 paintings that I like, he goes, I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I doubt I don't know what the number would be for like oils or acrylics or whatever. Watercolors, tends to be a little more dynamic. It's a fast medium. You can't, I guess you can linger too long on it.
Right.
But the best ones look so brushy and immediate and color bleeds and stuff. And so I thought it was a good thing to hear, that you're gonna try a lot of things. A lot of things are gonna be misses.
Right.
And then sure enough, I think I was on painting number 28, and I just uncorked this one, and it was the painting in the critique, and it was fun to see.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so big lessons in not giving up as well. You got to stick with it.
All the painters that I know, and that painters paint. They're painting 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week.
Right.
They're on it.
Right.
And they just keep painting, and I'm sure if you looked at their work from 20 years ago to now, for them it might be such an obvious progression.
Right.
But I think even to the untrained eye, you might go, wow, this one's more this or that. And I just think it's fun. And and artists, I like it when we have shows and a number of the artists show up because they get to talk with each other and share their experiences and ask questions.
Exactly.
And, it's kind of a continuing ed class in some ways, and it's not just patting each other on the back, job well done. It's
Right.
how did you do this? Like you said.
Yeah.
You want to know how they did it.
It's educating the patrons, other artists. Other artists can learn from it. The artists learn from each other. It's just the interaction when you go to these things and see the public, the artists, the buyers, the potential buyers. Everybody interacting and just learning and thriving together. There's an energy in the room that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's really fun too.
There's a spark in the air, and it's fun to be around.
There's pieces in the gallery that are under $100. Not a lot of them, but I mean, they're really fun pieces.
Right.
They're usually ceramics. A small painting, I have to say, is probably usually in the $200 to $300 range by an established artist.
Right.
But it's just interesting on up.
Yeah.
We've sold some big pieces in there too, and that's another thing. A guy asked me today when I was up skiing, so how are you doing there? Are you? I said, well, we've just had our 8th anniversary, so I guess we're doing okay.
Right.
But I think for our gallery. I'm also a jeweler, so I've got a whole custom shop in the back.
And I'm sure
I do jewelry for people around the U.S. Just.
I think
small.
we've talked before about maybe there might have been a few times when the jewelry sort of subsidized the gallery.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's between selling art or manufacturing jewelry at wholesale for other clients, out of state or, other jewelers.
Right.
And then just doing my own work, which sells regularly, that goes in the case, and
Right.
then getting custom work locally.
Yeah.
And I just shipped off a ring set to Brentwood, California.
Nice.
People, if you do a nice job, it just seems like you always get referrals. And I generally don't advertise for jewelry. It's all referral. It's always been that way all my life. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that says something in itself right there.
Well, it's just me,
Right.
I mean, there's a limit to what I can produce in a timely manner, say for the trade, but it's not such an issue for private clients unless they have we're getting married next week.
Right.
Can you get this done? Or, I need this gift by this day. And then you do your best.
Do you get that? You get people that come in with last minute requests and brushes, and are you usually able to accommodate them, or do you send them on down to the box store and say go pick something out of the case there?
Yep. Not always,
Yeah.
and sometimes I just go, I just don't quite have what you want, but had a couple, they were going to Coeur d'Alene. I said, and there's a jeweler there that I do work for. I said, you got to go see this this person. I said, she's got inventory. She's really fun.
Very cool.
She does a lot of custom work, and they went and got their rings from her.
Nice.
And and I'm doing work for this person, so to me it was about, well, how do we solve this? You need this. I don't have that, but hey, I think this person does. It's a referral.
Yeah. Sort of like
I
a
get
network.
referrals. I
Yeah.
can give referrals, and so, but it's nice. I do a fair amount of repair locally too, and that's fun. And even that's mostly referral. I don't. You've probably never seen an ad for. I haven't taken an ad put out for jewelry.
No.
I'm comfortable with it kind of growing organically, and in that way, I've always figured it kind of solved security issues too.
Right.
We don't.
You want to be careful too. I know I had a business once upon a time that I was doing fine. Everything was going great, paying the bills, making decent enough money, and then I thought, I'll go to the next level. I'll start advertising and hiring new people, and then it just it blew up. I got too busy. I couldn't keep up with the staff, and I couldn't hire the right staff. And sometimes you got to be careful with that. Sometimes it's better just to say, keep it low. Keep a low profile.
Well, yeah, I am where I am.
Yeah.
I mean, for me or for us, for my wife and she works for the Department of Natural Resources, and she's an artist. She got her degree in painting, but she has a business mind too. She had a mortgage company for decades, and she's really loves ceramics. That's become her thing, and I think really she's a sculptor.
Right.
She sculpts more than she throws, and really creates really interesting, unusual pieces. But my hope is that when she can retire from there, that we can make it all work, where she could, manage, come in the afternoons, something like that, and take care of the gallery and let me creep back to my studio.
Yeah.
and finish my work. I mean, I'm spread thin right now. There's no doubt about it. But I
Maybe
have
you
to
could set
say,
up a pottery studio in the back.
I really enjoy it. Yeah,
Fernandez.
yeah. She has a great studio at home. See,
Nice.
she could get up and spend half a day in her studio and then come in, and I think we can make it all work.
Very cool.
But yeah.
Right on. So we talked a little bit about the chronology of the Winterfest, and when did you first get this idea? How did it get started? I know you touched on it a little bit, but do you want to expand on that a little bit? Or?
Well, it was in the second year of the gallery, and I was kind of thinking forward to who I had booked and realizing that I was going to run out of artists, that I just didn't. I could only get so many artist friends up from Portland. And they were very helpful, but I just started thinking, well, I don't know if I came up with the idea or if one of my artist friends said, well, you could do a juried show or something like that. But it came up in conversation, and so I just kind of ran with it.
Yeah.
I did get online and look at juried shows. And some of them were really expensive to enter in. The upper echelon ones, it's like a serious competitive thing that people travel around and do these juried exhibits. Some of them had like $15,000 first place prize, that kind of stuff. And so, I'm thinking, a lot more modestly.
Right.
But started it, and I don't know about the first, might have been the first year, but I actually had people come to me and say, "Hey, we'd like to donate towards this." And
Yeah.
I said, "Well, would you like to sponsor an award?" And then I just gave them, here's the award amounts, and so every year, most of these people, were in contact, and they go, "Yeah, we'd like to do that again," and it really, because I wasn't charging enough on the front, I wasn't charging enough to cover
Right.
all the money. I wasn't bringing in money just from the entry fees that would cover all the expenses of the show.
Yeah.
So it's I didn't ask for help in the beginning, but it came to me, and people kind of wanted to get involved as it grew. And so the first year we allowed photography in too, but some of the photographers, if you're working digitally, you can make a photograph look like a painting.
Oh yeah.
And I realized, okay, and then I was kind of looking at some other shows, and they wouldn't have them together. They
Right.
don't have altered digital photography in with a painting, because it's just not an even playing field.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, so the second year I left photography off because I quite honestly didn't really know enough about it. But the third year, I got a hold of Joni Christian, a really good photographer from Colville. But she's always have her pictures are always on North Columbia Magazine, and she's published.
Yeah.
And I said, here's what I'm thinking of doing, and she submitted that first year. And so she helped me a lot, and her friends, Patty Ettinger, and they knew judges, and so it's been slower to build the photography side of the Winterfest, but I'm encouraged, and I think like Patty this year, she applied for a grant to the Vincent Fund, which funds the arts,
right
in there from Colville, and got $1,000. And
nice.
So if you look at the back of the North Columbia Magazine for February and March issue, it's a full-page ad, slick, nice, the back page, a back cover, I guess,
right.
for the Winterfest.
Nice.
And so, I've got I did the artwork for that, and then I put their logo on it. But what a help, and then we've had like Cat Brooks, article, in the Independent, in the Silverado.
Right.
And she goes, wow, I know a lot of photography groups. I'll just let some of them know next year. So what I realized is my messaging could be a lot better. I can't put the prospectus out organically.
Right.
Although I did post I did a post on Facebook about the upcoming show, and then I boosted the ad, and I did get a number of people who have never entered before.
Right.
But next year I realized that, okay, the money I'm raising and what I need to pay attention to, in addition to what we're figuring out as we go, is I need to put out a call to artists in probably September, October, November publications, possibly radio.
Right.
We talked about that.
Yep.
And advertise for that. We need artists.
Right.
And, whether it's the Inlander or North Columbia or radio, independent, but I need to be, if I want the event to grow, and for sure on the photography side, we could have had 3 times the amount. With growth like that is going to come growing pains.
Right.
But and even our gallery, when you come into the gallery, there's those 2 half walls. Well, I built those, and they're on Teflon skids. Those are movable walls.
Yeah.
So if I need to expand the gallery to accommodate the Winterfest show, let's say that one year we get 95 entries, and let's say 73 make it in. Okay,
Right.
well, we had 56 make it through this year, but where would I put those other 20? So I'm going to have to grow the venue.
Yeah. Well, that sort of brings up my next point here. We're hitting to the top of the hour here. We're kind of got to wrap things up a little bit here soon. But what's the future look like for this? I know you're going to continue to do them. What you talked about a little bit about expansion and growth. Any ideas on what things are going to look like for that?
Well, I think it's just going to continue along the track that it is. External events, something could happen. The show could contract a little bit. I don't know.
Right.
But I was highly encouraged after this year's response and the response of the collecting, buying public,
right,
for the pieces that have sold. And I know we need more entries for the photography side. I have to say too, in addition to all the individuals, the Arts Guild, Bud and Diane Evans, the Chihuahua Chamber of Commerce provided all the award money for the photography show.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. I mean, that they came to me and they came and said, well, do you need help with anything?
Right.
And I said, well, here's kind of what we've been doing. And lo and behold, she called me up, Tammy, and said, hey, we've decided we're going to fund the photography awards. The whole deal, you know. So it's like, okay, that takes pressure off there. You can, you know, so by growing it, you know, if I can, I kind of like where we're at in terms of the entry fee, because I think it makes it available, accessible to artists starting out or other, you know, and the award money's fun because I think it incentivizes artists to really swing for the fence.
Right.
You know, and that was good money. If someone wins best of show and then their piece sells, you know, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so, but it's really fun, you know, the creative district, you know, funding one of the awards, and an individual, you know, Red Burnell of Spirit of Clay funding an award.
Yeah.
And it just made it really, it felt good to be supported like that.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and the Arts Guild, you know, funded kind of the early part of it. I used that money, and Mountain Mark had donated some money, and that's what paid for the posters and all the postcards. And, you know, so this year, basically all the bases were covered. Right. But I want to think about next year. I have to think about, what's it going to cost to advertise for artists?
Right.
You know, and then that's where we will know, you know, after doing that, trying that, and see what kind of response we get, how it'll go.
Right. So I got to ask here before we go, just I guess more of a personal question, or some friends of mine that are also, you know, interested in the medium. So you're doing photography, you're doing altered photography, digital photography work. I've seen clay sculptures. I've seen, you know, we've done the wire sculptures, painting, all sorts of different types of art. Have you ever considered any film work?
No, that would be a different medium altogether.
Right.
Now we're talking about having an indie film event.
Right.
You know, whether it's allied or whatever with, you know, one of those side events another day with the Winterfest. Why not?
Yeah.
You know, it's art.
Right.
You know, they could time up PACA could time up a play, and we could say also, you know, it's all
right
art. You know,
yeah.
Taking the event to the city was just city, you know, wanting to, okay, well, we want to have these events, these things. Well, here's kind of a ready-made thing, just leverage off of it. And they did. Boy, did they ever.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's
I just work on my part of it, but the city just, not the city. This is individuals that did this. This didn't,
exactly.
This was not paid for by the city. This was privately raised money.
I think that's one of the things we wanted to point out this morning.
Organized, you know, this was all done volunteerism.
Exactly.
And, you know, it was a lot of work.
These are
volunteers,
to put this
on.
Local businesses pitching in money and donating, pitching in products, you know, donating their time and their efforts and their labor, their expertise even.
Well, if you build it right, in the long run, they shouldn't, you know, they shouldn't have to donate.
Right.
You know, if they were part of building it, that at some point that can come back too. They don't, you know, we want to support the community.
Exactly.
So if someone's donating, let's say, you know, $2,000 worth of beer, well, maybe at some point.
It's almost like that actually happened.
We can, you know, we can do that, and instead of going to a bigger brewery somewhere else, we could see who can do what locally.
Right.
You know, and it should be for that too, for the community. It should be a beneficiary of all that. You know, you can have all these outside businesses and stuff come in, but you know, in the end, we want to support Chewelah.
Exactly.
You know, our county, our little surrounding towns and stuff. So, but exactly. I just think it'll all work out. You know, if we're mindful of it. And those guys were so on it.
Yeah.
You know, Evan and Nicole and most of the people they had I actually felt like my job was easy because it was the gallery part was. I mean, I was doing my work, but that part in the committee, I would just say, yeah, we're on schedule,
Right.
But these guys are, getting the band, getting the food vendors, that's a lot of work to
And
do all that.
The time that they had to plan all this stuff in. I mean, it was a very,
It was
very
compressed.
short period of time.
Yeah.
And to be able to come up with the funding and the support and everything in that short of a time was.
That's the risk.
Like you said, I was kind of sitting back in the meetings. Most of the work I did was, I put some stuff on the radio and talked about it, and did stuff the day of. But most of my work put into it was the day of the event, and I'm kind of sitting back marveling at all these people just doing all this incredible
work.
work.
At the beer garden, enjoying myself, refreshment, and the couple that was at the table with me she said, "Wow, I just wonder what this is costing the city." And I said, "See those banners over there?
Yeah.
Those are all the sponsors
Yep.
for this. There's a lot of people who gave in kind. They provided a lot of material support and not just cash to put this thing on.
Right.
But it was pretty impressive, and it's you have to have they were a pretty good crew to go around like that, and everyone kind of networks and goes out, and
Yep.
we found the money to do this,
And none of it came from the city.
No,
There's a pool of money that the city gets to give out, and we got a small portion of that.
yeah.
But that was not money that came from the city bank account. That was money that was given to them by the state to hand
Well,
out.
you have to look at the bigger picture. All these, I would wager that at least 50% of the people that were there were not Chihuahuans.
Right.
This is money that's coming in
Exactly.
to the community, and they're just going. I had people come down from another city and go, "God, you guys just seem to really be getting this stuff together."
Yeah.
And that was a nice comment. And I thought, well, that's great. This is what this is about. We're drawing attention. People can come for the day. They can, the mountain's involved, and the mountain market, and all these events.
Yep.
And, and depending on the time of the year, it could be the golf course or whatever, the park. But it really, that's a nice presentation of what the city and surroundings have to offer.
Well, it's good to see people come here and enjoy what Chihuahua has to offer, and it's authentic. It's not, we're not putting on some facade or doing a song and dance. It's not a tourist trap. People come here to Chihuahua because it's an authentic place to be. And they come, they spend their money, and they go home, which is one of the important. I mean,
well, some people are anti-growth, or they're worried about growth, but I mean, we do. I don't think that we can support everything within the community just by recycling our own inner resources. We need that exchange. We need people coming through and stopping at the Yale Press on their way up to the mountain or whatever.
Exactly.
Stopping on their way home at Andy's for a beverage and some dinner or Sporties or fired up pizza, and so, and I walked around that night, or actually several times during the day, during the Winterfest. Every restaurant was full.
All night.
The booths, the craft people were all over these places, and the music was great, and people were really enjoying, the rail jam right in town there like that. And I didn't get to do it last year, but I got up and saw the last last two heats of the ski-oring, and it was just a blast. I just thought,
I love that.
it was just a fun picture.
It's such a fun combination of, we've got the ski hill here, we have a lot of people with farms and horses, and what a great fun sort of combination of the different cultures sort of coming together and creating a fun, unique event that everyone can enjoy.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
that was such a good idea. I
Yeah.
think that was Greg McCunn's idea on the ski-oring side. And then, talking with the melody writers and, but there was so many facets to this, art, ski-oring, rail jam,
Yep.
food and beverage industry, Sally McQueen and Nicole and working on bands
Right.
and the live music part, the fire burgers. I mean, it was just a blast. And those guys,
It really
what
was.
did they sold out in like an hour and a half.
They were prepared with 500 burgers, I heard.
Yep.
And they sold out, boom,
In like an
that.
hour and a half. And
Yeah.
they had to go to I think 2 store runs to keep and that's great, but then you go over to Sporty's and they were packed.
Yeah.
Andy's was packed. Fired Up was packed.
Yeah.
And so, if you look at it that way, someone asked me, well, how many people do you think you had? I said, I don't know. If the restaurants were packed all day and the burgers are selling out, I don't know. Is there some data point that we can get from food consumption? I don't
Right.
know. Then much less, the hundreds of people up at the mountain market, and their outdoor tent and food and everything, it was really cool.
It was.
Yeah, it would have been okay. What would it be like if we have a year where there's a foot of snow on the ground,
Yeah.
and that might be magical. People are gonna have to dress differently, but
Yeah.
but I think every year it's gonna be we're not gonna know exactly what the weather's gonna be like
But we did it.
for this thing. But that tent,
Yeah.
having a central hub, I think was really the key to success there. It really was the glue for this event to have a central meeting point like that.
I agree. And it was a little warmer in there than outside. We had the heater going.
Yeah, heated
Yeah, it
tent.
was
I mean,
nice.
how
It
cool
was
is
nice.
that? Even with each end open, you could still feel the heat if you were
could.
standing inside. So that was pretty cool.
You could even for anyone that went inside the band tent, even just with all the equipment and the lights going in there, it was 20 degrees warmer inside there.
I bet. I bet. Yeah. They were probably going, oh, this is great. My fingers would have been too cold to
Right.
play
those
my guitar or
lights they
whatever.
had in there really heated that tent up. They had, probably 5 or 6 little sets of 4 or 5 lights in there, and man, they really heated that little tent up.
I bet. And that was neat. That tent was nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the little tent behind, kind of the band waiting, their own little private space to hang out.
Exactly.
But yeah, anyway.
We'll tell you what, Tim, we are running way over. We're almost 15 minutes past the hour.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. And
You're very welcome.
And again, any last words before we head out?
Thank you, Chihuahua.
Yeah, thank you.
Seriously. Thank you, Chihuahua.
Yeah, thank you for all the work you do over there and for bringing light and art to Chihuahua. It's been great.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so yeah, we're about to head out here. Thank you so much for listening to KCHW 102.7. This has been a very special show with our good friend Tim Nielson from the Trails End Art Gallery, here to do a little recap of Winterfest and all the things to come, and it's been really nice. So thank you so much, and looking forward to everything you do in the future. The art walk is happening. Tell us the next date for the next art walk before we go.
March 7th. March 6th, we'll have a couple of artists for for an art talk.
Yep.
So if you have an opening there, we could do a 4:00 artists.
Every
thing. Okay.
Whenever you want it, Tim.
Then I'm
Say the word.
gonna tell them to
Perfect.
plan on 4:00 because that's great.
It is, and we really have a blast doing those interviews.
It's fun.
It is fun.
It
is
fun.
fun. And when you bring in, set up the art behind
Yeah,
us, and
yeah.
we get to see it. And guys, if you could get them, there was one woman, she did like Japanese art, and I'm picturing, I knew the stuff in my head. I knew these beautiful ornate boxes, and I'm like, oh, I wish they would have brought the tools. So anytime we could bring tools or any kind of fun demonstrations or anything like that, we're down for that too.
That might be a little difficult to pull
You don't
off
have
here.
to do that.
But anyway, we're very grateful that you have us, and that's fantastic.
I was just adding my wish list onto that. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you so much for listening to KCHW. I do not have an outro. I forgot to load it into my system here, so we're going to listen to the intro again as we head on out and head in back to the music and get our sponsors thanked.
Cheers.
So once again, Tim, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chewelah,
Right.
and the Chewelah Festival Association for making all this happen. That was supposed to be that's the right thing.
We
There we
interrupt
go.
this
Here we
program
go.
to bring you a special report.
We are clear. Go ahead, Tim. Thank you so much.